Well, hello, you beautiful people. This is Damian Montero back with our Hackathon series of smart videos to use in a hackathon. So, I'm Damian Montero from Florida JS. What we have here in front of us, let's get it down to the meat and potatoes. We have an amazing app. I know you're impressed. I built this amazing app and it's in React. Woohoo! It's in React and you all love React. Here it is. It's amazing. But that's not here what I'm here to do. Let's look what it does. It does, you click on the user one and the task for user one comes up, and you click on user two and task on user two comes up. And I'm not going to blow you away if I show you that there's some, use effects coming up here, and that use effect, when you click on the particular user, clicks on that user, that sets the user that bubbles through the app and goes to task. I'm not blowing you away because you're a front-end developer and you're amazing. Now, what sometimes happens is this front end developer skills you got here is missing the back end. The back end person that you had in the hackathon sort of left. The back end person didn't exist. The back end person isn't needed. And that's what I'm here to help you with. I'm going to show you a special product called json-server. This is a third party um, that you will find in many, many different places. Let me go ahead and look at, oh my, some search for it. Trust me, we'll install it right now and let's use it to make our own API. For that purpose, you'll notice that it is hitting an API. I'm going to show you what exactly ends up happening when you do so. Let's look at our actual API and give us a little bit of more of a hint. I'm going to go ahead and click on here, and I'm going to click on this, and it's going to open up, and we see that it's a traditional server. In fact, if we go down to the root, our backend server is coming in here with some information that's quite wonderful, our endpoints, our information. You could imagine that your front end needed both a user collection and a task collection, and that task collection needed to know which user it belonged to, etc., etc. But you're not a backend person. You don't know how to do that, or you don't remember from the last hackathon that you did, or last bootcamp that you did. I'm here to help. I'm going to show you how to really create a single file that you can utilize and you can edit and you can post and you can do absolutely everything from it. Okay? So let's look more about it. I'm going to do something, which is I'm going to stop it over here on the right-hand side, which you don't see, which means I'm now in control of our APIs. So right now, if I were to go back to our API, let's go back to our web browser and try to see it. And we'll see that, I'm going to open up the inspector to showcase this. And the console, of course, we hit there, and then we'll see that nothing's happening because although the information is in there, the get is failing, right? The API turned off. You can all understand that. Okay. So once I click on enough times that I clicked on OK, we can go ahead and create our own. What are we going to do? I'm going to show you how to do the ending? Absolutely not. What we're going to do is going to create a new folder in here, and I want you to just follow along with me in your project. And all we're going to do in here is put in a single JSON file. I'm going to create the JSON file for you with us together. And all it's going to look like is an absolute basic. Just follow along here. And so essentially, the first thing we do is each one of the first things we do in this top level will be ignored here. I have Copilot turned on. Please listen to it. Don't watch too much of what the screen. We need the endpoints. And as if we remembered, we needed a user endpoint with a nice collection of users. Okay, that's cool. And then we needed a tasks, I think we said it was. And then that would be a collection of tasks. So you can imagine that we are defining what the server and all the magic that will happen will be doing on there. So again, this is because you don't have that server person, or you want to sort of take over this first person. And in fact, I myself utilize this software to quickly iterate a backend service that once it was done, I was able to hand off almost as documentation for the backend server people. You will see the magic of json-server that comes in here. So let's put some information in there. We can start off the project without anything in there. That's fine. And then we post to create a new user or post to create a new app. My example app does not have the post capability, but this does accept post, patch, update, delete. It accepts all those calls and it will do exactly that. If you delete and you send an ID the traditional way, and we'll look more about that information, you will be able to do that. But one of the things we can do is start off with an existing users. That way, the other developers can also run their version of their API without affecting yours. They're playing around with it, you're playing around with it, you can end up having the same file and sort of grow on it. Let me explain what I can do. Do a brand new user, we put a nice user ID. user ID, right? This looks a lot like what we're getting back of an ID of a name here. Maybe a nice. Let me just sort of organize it a little bit better. Oh my, it was choose the wrong points for that. There we go. And then we go ahead and say maybe a name. This particular is going to be John Doe, um, and then that looks good. And that's enough for that user. And we're going to create a user ID two. That's right. And this, oops, let me put this in a scroll. Let's go ahead. I'm going to format in just a minute. I know some of you are like, what's going on here? There's too much information. I'll fix that in just a second. Let's start from fixing that right now. And it's chosen to do that. Not my choice of format. That's okay. Name is Jane Doe. Right? That makes sense. We have users here. It's a good use of it. We have two users, and then let's create some tasks for those users. Again, post will work. This, what you're about to see, will do it. This is sort of the starting off here, and then you can see that we can go ahead and create some tasks. So this will be sort of a single variable, right? So we can go ID, and this is the key. You do want to have sort of an ID in each one of the names. You can use the username, an ID there, or you can have an ID here. If you use ID as in the variable ID, then sort of JSON server that again that's doing our API for us will be able to handle this a little bit better. So this will be user ID one. This is the task ID one, but of course it has to know which user ID it belongs to. So in this case, we're going to point it to task ID one. Then we're going to go ahead and say title. Please excuse me, Copilot is suggesting some amazing things in here. Let's go with it. Perfect. So as you can see here, I'm going to see if I can format a little bit better. We have two users. We have a collection of users. We have a collection of tasks. The user of ID 1 has a name of Joan Doe. The user of ID 2 has a name of Jane Doe. The task of ID 1 has a user ID 1, so this task belongs to this user, and it has a task of name 1, task 1. Then we have an ID 2, again, task 2. It belongs to the same user as the first one, and it's task 2, but the third one belongs to user 2. Okay, so we'll get more of this detail in a second. Now I have here Vite running my front end. The front end you see there is there. Let's go ahead and create a new one in Visual Studio. You can open up a console log, an additional one. We want to go into that API directory, right? Let's look at what's going on in here. As you remember, we created an API directory. This is the API directory here. I'm going to type in json-server. Please excuse me. Before we do that, I forgot to tell you, you do need to do pip install -g JSON dash server. There is a JSON server without the dash. It's not the same thing. And we want to go ahead and press enter. I'm not doing that because it's not required. This would be something you need to install globally, so you can use it absolutely everywhere. Once you do that, as you notice, no other change happened in the code. Nothing was changed in the code. We just added that one API directory. I chosen to put it there. You can put it in a different location, all that, or you can have a different person run this. And then, of course, when we go JSON-server --watch, and then the file, let me look at the file's name, api.json, cool, api.json. Excellent. This starts up and right away we're getting some information. Now again, you might not still be blown away, but let me show you this. I'm going to go ahead and go control click or command click if you're on the Windows. And we will see our content in JSON. I happen to have a filter that makes it easier whenever JSON comes up in my browser to see it. You would normally see this, but you can understand that it's some good information. And now what's amazing about this is if you go down to like the root, we have a proper website that shows us all the different endpoints, all the information each one of the people can there. Someone that doesn't know what's going on saying, oh, I think we have to add the tasks. And you're like, oh, I already added to that. And you're like, oh, that's great. And they can come into their own server and see what's going on in there. Now, here's the tasks. Again, I have a formatted that makes it all pretty and all that, but you can see that perhaps on your page it would look something like this. And of course, we have the information. We now have our information correctly. Now, here's something very, very interesting. So you're like, great, Damien, I have information, but it seems to be like a kitty API. It's not true. It can do quite a number of things. In fact, some of the information we can see here in the README documentation of the GitHub. So you get a lot of information from resources, from filtering, from doing HTTPS, from hosting it somewhere else. There's a lot of information here. So let's look at some of the information in here. Let me go ahead and go to the tasks and know that you can go /1 and only see task. This is a get. You could do a post or a delete on this, and a delete calling on this through Postman, through other things, through your browser, sending a delete request will delete this task number one, undeletable, right? I mean, unrecoverable. You delete it, it's gone. You do a patch, you need to change it, it accepts that. How about something a little bit more sophisticated? Well, this is all the list of the tasks. What if I wanted, for example, only the ones for this particular user? User 2. So I can come in here, do a question mark, and I put the variable. Here, the variables for the fields are user ID. I've chosen, those are names I've chosen as an English speaker. So I'm going to type in here, user ID equals 2. I come in here, and now the filter gives me only those. And that's what I did here. So if you notice here, I'm going to show you my tasks here. I get the user ID being as a prop being passed down here. I then go and see that same URL that we saw a second ago with the particular user ID is there. I listen to it changes. And therefore, now going back to our web page, we can go ahead and see that we're back. As I switch from different ones over here, bear with me here. Oh, as I switch different ones over here, it switches to the different tasks, the new version of the tasks, not the one that we saw a second ago. So as you can see, I've now created tasks. One more time, I'm hitting the URLs here, localhost 3000, the one that it showed me. It's showing me what's being requested here in the history. So if you're sharing your information, and this can be shared within everybody in the hackathon, between everybody in your group, right? They would have to not go to their local host. That means their computer. That's the pronoun the computer uses for itself. And so you would have to use the IP address of your computer. That's beyond the scope of this conversation, but it could be something that you could definitely be doing. This will allow you to go ahead and share the API. Maybe you are the API server, and then everybody can use it. You've done it by simply putting in a file, a JSON file with the different endpoints, the different slash whatever that you needed. You've grouped them. You're allowing the system allows you to look at the different endpoints through just simply clicking on it and going back to the sort of root of the website. These are the different endpoints. You can see the different requests. It accepts patch. It accepts filters. It accepts individual ones. Like I only want to see ID 1. You can go /ID 1. You can do everything in REST, and you've done no API coding whatsoever. You didn't need an API person. You did all on your front end, just like you're mastered yourself. And I think at that moment, that means you're winning. Congratulations. Can't wait to see your amazing work.